Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here with us today on April 13th, 2021 for a meeting of the COVID-19 Hospitality Ad Hoc Committee of the Monterey County Board of Supervisors. I am going to be chairing the meeting today. This ad hoc really hasn't had a chair, but I am happy to facilitate the meeting. This is a preliminary meeting that we're having to have discussion before the full meeting of this item on next Tuesday, a week from today, April 20th. And we're having this meeting to get further information and perspective on Supervisor Alejo's referral for the county to adopt a hospitality and restaurant worker right to recall ordinance that would apply only in the county unincorporated area and only to hospitality workers in the unincorporated area. The agenda for today is to first hear a presentation from staff from the Workforce Development Board of Monterey County and our county council. Following the presentation, we have invited representatives from both labor and the hospitality industry to share their perspectives on this proposal. We have planned this meeting to go from 9 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. After hearing the presentations and from the designated speakers, we will take public comment. I'm expecting that we will have a lot of people who want to have their voices heard. So we're going to limit the amount of time to speak. We planned for about 30 minutes to have public comment from anyone who wishes to make a comment, and each person's comment will be limited to 2 minutes. So I ask you to think about your comments in advance and have them be concise. And I hope that you're going to be okay with this. I appreciate your help for this. As I said, we've got a hard stop at 10:30. A couple of items about this Zoom meeting. For members of the public, as attendees, you are muted. You will not be able to unmute yourselves. And this is to ensure that everybody has the best listening experience during the meeting. When we get to the public comment part of this meeting, please raise your hand to request to be unmuted, to make a comment, or to ask a question. And if you join the meeting by your computer, the raise your hand button is at the bottom of your screen under the participants icon. So if you join the meeting by telephone, all you have to do is press *9 on your telephone keypad, and that will show that you've raised your hand. The question and answer feature is available for you to submit questions, but we're not going to be responding to the Q&A, the written Q&A today. We will ask that questions submitted to the Q&A be addressed to the full board's discussion of this issue a week from today. Let's see, what else? Okay, written comments should go to the full Board of Supervisors for the meeting on April 20th and can be submitted to the clerk of the board at this email address, cob@co.monterey.ca.us. So with that, I'd like to invite county staff and to introduce themselves and start with their presentation. Thanks very much for being with us. I'm sure this is going to be a very interesting presentation, and I thank you for your engagement. So I'll turn it over to you, Chris and Les.
Thank.
Sorry, I should have asked my colleague. Oh my God, I didn't even ask my person here.
You didn't even introduce me. I'm
like the are you anyway? Please forgive me. Let me introduce my colleague, Supervisor John Phillips, representing the 2nd Supervisorial District, my colleague and my partner on the Ad Hoc Hospitality Committee. Yikes.
Nice job, Madam Chair.
Do you want to say a few words, John?
I don't. I'm waiting to hear what staff has to say, so thanks.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll turn it over now to you, Chris.
Okay.
Thank you.
Let me share my screen with everybody. And we had it. And I think everybody can see that now. Good morning, Chris Donnelly. I'm the director for the Monterey County Workforce Development Board, and I'll be doing a presentation that I presented last Tuesday to the County Board of Supervisors to provide the committee an update on some of the information that County Council and the Workforce Board has been developing over the last month and a half to 2 months in terms of the right to recall ordinance. Janet Holmes, I think, will be sharing the presentation with me in terms of part of the information on the ordinances that we're looking at. So as Supervisor Adams mentioned, this was a board referral from Supervisor Aleo to look at an ordinance to recall laid off Monterey County hospitality and restaurant workers as the economy opens. And if you look at it in regards to the information, this is just for the Monterey County's unincorporated area to call individuals working before the pandemic as the enterprise reopens in operations to laid off workers. And that's pretty much what we'll be discussing today. Part of the right to recall ordinance is an update to the board. What we were looking at is review of other jurisdictions' right to recall ordinances, review of the city of San Diego versus San Diego County Lodging Association litigation, review of labor market information of Monterey County and other jurisdictions, identification of accommodation and food and beverage businesses in the unincorporated areas of Monterey County that may be impacted. And then today was just an update from the Ad Hoc Committee to move forward with our referrals and report to the board. The key definitions that we were looking at as progress up to date to the Board of Supervisors was covered employees, hotel, restaurant, size of business, laid off employees, the recall process, retaliation and enforcement, and effective dates. And I'm going to have Janet go through the various similar in county ordinances that we looked at.
Thanks, Chris. I think I'll take
Okay.
care of this one. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Good morning, everybody. Leslie Gerard, Monterey County Council. So staff had gathered a number of different similar recall ordinances and just compared some of the provisions. You can see on the screen, City of Oakland, City of Santa Clara, City of San Diego, County of Los Angeles, and City and County of San Francisco. There may be others, but these were the primary ones that we focused on, in addition to the template that was prepared and provided by Unite here. And as you can see, as we go through the slides, you'll see that the various jurisdictions have different elements. They cover different things. They have different thresholds. Next slide, please. So the first issue is who is covered. The common theme here is an employee that has been employed within this for 6 months within typically a 12-month period prior to a particular date. City of Oakland chose January 31st of 2020, which is the date the National Declaration of Emergency was issued. Some jurisdictions have focused on the March date when Governor Newsom declared the state of emergency in the state of California. Next slide, please. There are some provisions in various jurisdictions about who is not covered. For example, the City of Oakland declared that it and the Port of Oakland were not covered. City of Santa Clara, other governmental entities are not covered. In the City of San Diego, County of Los Angeles, City and County of San Francisco, there are various exclusions for who is a not covered employer for purposes of the right to recall ordinance. Next slide, please. So, and again, the various jurisdictions have different types of employers that are covered. Some of these jurisdictions have their own airports. Some of them have convention centers. For example, City of Oakland has airport hospitality service providers, event centers, hotels, and covered restaurants. County of Los Angeles ordinance covers janitorial, maintenance, security service, as well as hospitality employees. So again, across the board, various jurisdictions cover various types of employers. Next slide, please. Various jurisdictions have different thresholds for what is covered. Typically, for a restaurant, it's a restaurant that has 50 or more employees, and if it's a franchise, if the franchise, no matter where located, has 500 or more employees. Typically for hotels, there's a 50 room threshold. Some jurisdictions have a gross annual income combination with number of rooms threshold. Next slide, please. So who is generally entitled to be recalled? It's typically a laid off employee who has the same or similar skills necessary to fill a particular job. So obviously the easiest situation is somebody was a housekeeper at a hotel, got laid off. There's a housekeeper position that's open. They typically would be entitled to be recalled. The issue about retraining comes up if the employee if there's not a job that the particular employee was specially qualified for, can that employee be trained? Some of the jurisdictions provide for training for recalled employees to do a slightly different job than the one they were in immediately before being laid off. Next slide, please. Let's see, enforcement. Some jurisdictions have established a bureaucratic enforcement process. Others have left it typically solely to a private right of action in the Superior Court in order to avoid creating a whole new bureaucracy. There are anti-retaliation provisions. The various penalties associated with a private right of action vary from a statutory amount versus actual damages versus punitive damages if the circumstances warrant. I think that covers
There's just one more
slides.
slide.
Oh, there's just some additional information. Most importantly, there's litigation pending down in the city of San Diego. There was supposed to be a hearing last month, but that was put off because I believe Unite Here or one of the unions petitioned to intervene in that case. And so that hearing is pending. The basic issues down there have to do with impairment of contract, if I understand correctly. Chris, if you could stop sharing, I want to share my screen for a minute. So attached to the agenda packet was a document that I prepared. We don't need input from the committee on these issues. These are issues that we need input from the full Board of Supervisors next Tuesday. And hopefully we can get that input, finalize any ordinance if the board desires to go forward with an ordinance and have the thing introduced and adopted next week. But these are some of the issues that I'm looking to the Board of Supervisors for direction on. Does a recall ordinance apply to managerial or supervisory employees? Some jurisdictions are silent, others exclude managerial or supervisory employees. Again, the threshold for covered hotels, the number of rooms, threshold for restaurants, the number of employees, including for franchises, the number of months of service to qualify as a laid off employee, qualifications for recall, is or can be qualified with training. I discussed that a little bit earlier. Then how many days does the employee have to respond to the recall notice? Some jurisdictions give 5 days, some jurisdictions give a little bit more than that. If the employee is not going to be recalled, how many days does the covered employer have to send the employee the factual basis for why they are not being recalled? Then there's a successor employee in case a business gets sold. What are the terms and conditions under which a successor employee has to allow the recall? And under what conditions might a successor employer give a performance evaluation in order to determine if the employee will remain employed? Various jurisdictions have different thresholds for that. Again, enforcement of civil action and punitive damages. And what if there's an existing collective bargaining agreement that has recall provisions? This is a very important point because of the constitutional prohibition on impairment of contract. Some of the jurisdictions exclude employees that are covered or employers that have a clear MOU with their bargaining units regarding recall. But it's unclear how that might play out here in Monterey County. And then what is the effective date and termination? And how long will it go on? Does it go on for a defined period of time, 6 months? Does it go on until Governor Newsom terminates his proclamation of emergency due to the COVID pandemic? There are a few other issues that we'll try to flesh out with the Board of Supervisors, but that concludes my portion of the presentation. Chris, I've stopped sharing so you can go back to the slides.
Okay, it should be back up.
Yes,
Is it back up?
yes.
Okay. So the Workforce Board did some, looking at information on the number of hotels and the properties, getting data from the Monterey County Conventions and Visitor Bureau. And we looked at that information, and there was 253 properties in Monterey County with 12,000 rooms. And we looked at 63 rooms with over 50, 63 properties over 50 rooms, 25 properties with over 100 rooms. But looking at the unincorporated area, we noticed that there's only 33 properties that we can identify that are in the unincorporated area. District 2 has 5, District 3 has 3, and the majority of them are District 5 of 25. And the next was that we looked at some information from Dun & Bradstreet just to be able to look at the number of hotels that are actually in the unincorporated area, lodges and so forth. That number of 73 differs because this includes parks, resort parks, RV parks, and other smaller bed and breakfasts that are maybe 1 or 2 rooms and so forth. So we pulled out all that whole data. And we looked at the number of employees that ranged from this information, 2 to 1,500. 1,500 is at Pebble Beach Resorts. There's 7 hotels and accommodations with businesses over 50 employees, and they're Bernardus Lodge, Carmel Highland, Carmel Mission Inn, Carmel Valley Resorts, Pebble Beach Resorts, Quail Lodge, and Ventana Inn. With that, the number of individuals that could be impacted. We also looked at eating and drinking and catering establishments. There's 183 eating, drinking, and catering establishments in Monterey County in the unincorporated areas. And the number of employees range from 5 to 100. The largest is, employees are Nepean and Big Sur, Real Grill, Carmel, Sierra Mar Restaurant, Big Sur, and Rocky Point Restaurant, what I believe it might still be closed. And all other businesses that we looked at are small restaurants, coffee shops, fast food establishments with 5 to 40 employees. And some of those are, your Denny's, McDonald's, Burger King, Taco Bell, and so forth that fall into that. And so that would be part of that franchisees in terms up to 500 individuals. But right now, what's listed is those smaller ones. And then we looked at the largest employers in an unincorporated area. And if you look at their Pebble Beach with the largest, going down to Big Sur Large with 20 employees and the accommodations. And then food service, 100 down to 40, what is Sierra Mar Post Ranch Inn. The next slide, we just did a comparison of the labor market information of other areas that have enacted the right to recall ordinance. We just want to do a little bit of a comparison in terms of how we size up with other areas. And mostly Monterey County and Oakland are very similar in regards to their labor market, their employment numbers, the number of people who are working in accommodation and hotel employment and eating and drinking employment. About 12,000 to close to 13,000 for Oakland. Monterey County has about 15,100. The number of businesses, what we're showing is accommodation hotel in Monterey County has majority of them, 351 compared to 101 in Oakland. And then in eating and drinking business, Oakland far outweighs Monterey County in those number of businesses. And they're both equal, about 1,342 total businesses in Oakland, and Monterey County has 1,262. So that's information for us on the comparative analysis with other workforce boards and other jurisdictions outside of Monterey County. Any questions?
Actually, Chris, we're going to hold questions until the end of everyone's presentation.
Okay, all right.
But thank you for that. And thank you very much for the information. There's a lot to digest there, and I appreciate very much the work that you and Les have put together for this. So with that, I'm going to invite representatives from the labor workers to present. And I think our first presenter will be Hector Azpilcueta, who is the Secretary Treasurer for Unite Here Local 483, and Lee Strebe, who's the Policy Advisor to Unite Here Local 483. So I'm looking forward to your presentation, and we'll have 10 minutes for you to present. Thank you.
Good morning, Supervisor Adams and Phillips and other participants. My name is Hector Aspilcueta, and I'm the Secretary Treasurer of Unite Here Local 43. We represent hundreds of hospitality workers in the Monterey and Santa Cruz counties. I'm here with my colleagues to briefly lay out the severe problem facing some hotel workers in the Monterey County. Problems related to these workers not getting called back to work as hotel reopens after COVID. We will also briefly lay out our proposal for a basic worker recall ordinance to help deal with the problem. Hotel workers in Monterey County are in crisis. Most of them have now been unemployed for over a year, and they are still at work. As you all hear in public comment, some have lost their homes, some are having to turn to local charities for food. Now that the Monterey County has entered the orange tier for COVID, the good news is that hotels and restaurants are beginning to open. And I'm also pleased to report that some hotels, such as the Asilomar and the Pebble Beach, have given to our union a binding commitment that their employees will have a right to recall to their jobs as soon as they reopen. On the other hand, unfortunately, some hotels have yet to make this simple, no cost commitment. That means that many laid off hotel workers have tremendous fears and anxiety. They don't know when their hotels will be staffed up. They fear that once those hotels do staff up, management might never bring them back. And they don't worry that if they do get their offer job, they will be brought back as new employees with lower wages and benefits. This is not just workers' imaginary fears. We are getting reports that they are worried about this is already happening. Some of the more senior laid-off workers are now telling us that they have not been called back to work and are not hearing anything from their hotels. Yet at the same time, they are learning that some of their coworkers, people with their same skills and qualifications, but less years of service, have already been called back to work. And we have some of the speakers like Enriqueta Herrera and Joaquin Benitez who will testify. Those are the main problems that we are asking you to address with this worker recall ordinance. I wish these problems did not exist, but they do in some hotels and other facilities, and we need your help to address them. I will turn it over to my colleague in a minute to talk about how this law will work, but I want to leave you with two points. First, what we are asking you to do here is something new. It's not something new or something radical. Other cities and counties around the state have already passed a worker recall ordinance like this, including San Diego, San Francisco, Oakland, and Santa Clara. This is a minimum labor standard, like the minimum wage. So you as supervisors have the authority to pass the ordinance, and it doesn't interfere with collective bargaining. On the litigation threat, this ordinance have gone through a lot and survived. Second, some people are wondering why Monterey County needs to do this, because they say there is already a bill on the issue, Senate Bill 93, now moving forward in Sacramento. Well, we hope that the bill gets approved and signed by the governor soon, but there is no guarantee that it will make it out and become law. And even if it does, the language we are proposing here in Monterey County is stronger than what is in the bill, and will give workers here additional important tools to protect themselves. With that, I will turn it over to my colleague, Lee Stripes.
Thank you, Hector.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Great. So my name is Lee Strebe. As you heard, I've worked on research and policy for the union for quite a number of years, and I'm glad to be helping out Local 43 with this policy. What I'll do is talk a bit about what the ordinance will do if it's adopted, and then try to address some of the questions we've heard from staff and from others about it. So following up on what how the city attorney laid out some of this, here's the essence of the ordinance in a few sentences. The ordinance says that if a hotel is reopening and is staffing up, and for example, with housekeepers, there are several openings for housekeepers, the management of that hotel would have to follow this procedure. So first they'd go to laid off housekeepers by mail, text, and email if they have it. and they tell those folks that there are openings at the hotel for which those folks are qualified and would offer them, at least conditionally offer them positions. Then those former employees would have a set number of days, long enough to get back to the hotel to let the hotel know if they're interested in coming back to a job or not. Then after that brief wait, I guess there are two scenarios. The first one is if there are more housekeepers who are interested in coming back than there are jobs, then the hotel would be required to actually recall or rehire people, the interested folks, in the order of their length of service, meaning they'd bring back the longest serving workers first until all the positions are filled. Of course, on the other hand, if there are more openings than interested housekeepers, then the hotel could bring everybody back who's interested and then go out and hire some brand new employees. So that's the essence of it. That's basically what we're talking about here. There are a few other important details of the law, which I should mention, some of which were referenced in the earlier presentation. The first one I would say is that workers would have to be notified by the hotel about all, and also offered all positions for which they're qualified. And as we're recommending, qualified means that even if the job's a little bit different, or based on a story that some of us heard yesterday, if it's in a different outlet or department in the hotel. I heard a story about a bartender who is still laid off, but another outlet in the hotel is being reopened, a bartender with more seniority. So if the person who did the work before that did work that was substantially similar to what's being offered now, or if the person could be trained for the job like a new employee, then they're considered qualified. There's no way of, the hotel can't sort of play games with those definitions. Secondly, there's a provision which binds the new owner, the successorship provision that was mentioned, that binds a new owner if a hotel changes hands. In this COVID crisis, a lot of hotels are being sold, some foreclosed on. It's a complicated situation, and this ordinance says that if there's a new owner for whatever reason from when the hotel shut down, that new owner couldn't evade this requirement. They'd have to recall the laid off employees in the way described earlier, and the ordinance provides details about how that would work. And then thirdly, and there's other aspects, but I'd emphasize that the ordinance as proposed, and it must include real enforcement tools. And as referenced, what we're proposing here is a private right of action for a worker who gets passed over, the ability to go to court. And our view of that is it provides for strong enforcement and an incentive against employers violating the policy without the county having to create and fund some large enforcement bureaucracy. So as was laid out earlier, I know staff is seeking guidance from the supervisors in particular on several details of a proposed ordinance. And we're open to talking through our views on those. We've shared some of them. Let me just quickly mention on a couple of those where we're at, and then we're happy to talk about it further. In terms of the size of hotels covered, we feel strongly, especially in a county like Monterey, it should cover, lodging establishments with a threshold of 50 or more rooms. And as you heard before, we're talking not about a massive number of hotels, like 10 or fewer hotels that probably in the unincorporated areas sort of fit into that category. And then we think that there needs to be a second area is the sort of how much time people have to respond. We think workers have to have enough time to respond to say if they're interested from when the notice goes out to them. And situations where it's someone proposes 2 or 3 or 4 days, that's a recipe for some small mistake happening and people not being notified. I do want to on this point note that contrary to what some have suggested about this policy, people have said it would slow down employers rehiring because they'd have to go one at a time to make offers. As we're proposing this ordinance and as it has been passed over, employers can make multiple offers at once, right? The example I gave, if there's 10 housekeeping positions, they could, tell all the potential housekeepers and fill those 10 positions, not have to go in sequence through the employees. So, 10 days or whatever is, it's not, 10 days in sequence a bunch of different times. There's other issues we've already talked about here, qualified employees and successorship and enforcement. So we don't need to repeat those. And I'll emphasize, we're happy to connect our county staff with our attorneys who've worked on these policies in various places to talk through these and other issues. If I have a second still, I want to just touch base on a couple of other issues. On the question of doing this, why is this happening in unincorporated areas, and why are we going to the county about this? Why are we going only to you about unincorporated areas, and what about the incorporated areas? I think a key point there is we obviously do want to do this in many of the cities in the county, and we will be pursuing that. As Hector referenced, we're also engaged at the state level. From our perspective, we think that the county has an opportunity to really provide leadership on this issue. And it's an opportunity and a real to feel good about playing that sort of a leadership role. So we hope the county will do that. And then on the issues related to agreements already bargained and things like that, and it's true that some collective bargaining agreements do cover these issues. In some cases, people have been out longer than what those agreements originally provided for. As Hector referenced, some employers are doing the right thing here, and some are saying the right thing, but there definitely are employers, as you'll hear, who seem to be heading out in the wrong direction and seeking to take advantage of the situation and really bring people back who are new, or not bring people back who have a lot of seniority and experience. So we need the county's help to set the floor there. And then I'll close with one more point, excuse me, about the urgency of this. As was mentioned last week at the Board of Supervisors, the hiring is happening now as we move into this orange phase, and workers need these protections now, not a few months from now. And so we really urge that this go back to the board for full discussion and adoption in a strong form next week. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much for your presentation, Lee. And now, so I don't look like some voice with a lot of face to it. And now we're going to hear from the hospitality industry. And I would like to ask Rick Aldinger on behalf of the Monterey County Hospitality Association to make his presentation. Thanks, Rick. It's all yours.
Thank you. Good morning, Supervisor Adams, Supervisor Phillips, and county staff. My name is Rick Aldinger. I'm the general manager of the Big Sur River Inn, and I'm the chair of the Monterey County Hospitality Association Government Affairs Committee. The Monterey County Hospitality Association represents more than 200 members who come from all facets of the hospitality industry: hotels, restaurants, retail stores, golf, tour, and wedding companies, for example. We also represent a myriad of businesses of all sizes who are closely connected to the hospitality industry. Not only do we represent hospitality business, but maybe even more importantly, it is our mission to provide a unified voice and support for more than 23,000 hospitality employees. What you may not know is that a core element of our mission and day-to-day work is employee training and support. Throughout the year, we provide employees with professional development, training, and educational opportunities. Each year, we host an employee appreciation event for our associates. Day in and day out, we partner with local universities, community colleges, and organizations like Rancho Cielo to provide job opportunities and grow talent within our community. Why? Because we could not do what we do without our employees. We are advocates and champions for their success. So, as we provide you with an update on our business and our perspective on the proposed ordinance, please recognize that we do so grounded in our mission to be the voice of our employees. Let's talk about the status of travel and hospitality business today. It's clear that travel is on the rebound. There's more optimism in the market than we've seen in more than a year. I just saw that Google reports more online searches for hotels and lodging than in over a decade. Once vaccines are completely rolled out, it's clear the world will be ready to travel again. Occupancy levels and bookings for future individual travel in some of our hotels is strong, and in some cases at record highs. The Gulf sector is up to levels not seen since Tiger Mania. Those sectors of our businesses have rehired most, if not all, of their employees. And those businesses are already desperate for talent and are actively recruiting. However, that doesn't mean that all aspects of our business are back. Restaurants, for example, have been allowed to be open for indoor dining at reduced capacity for only a matter of weeks. Each and every restaurant is still fighting to stay afloat, and we assure you that the minute they are allowed to fully reopen and business is back up, they will be bringing their employees back to work. In Monterey County, 40 to 60% of our business is in group travel, conferences, corporate retreats, group meetings, and the like. Group travel is still completely shut down. We are pleased that the governor is allowing group business to resume and that we'll be able to start bringing these employees back accordingly. I share this business update to provide a reality check. Most of our employees are back to work, and at the same time, most of our companies have open positions and are having an extremely difficult time finding talent. For a variety of reasons, some of our former employees are unwilling or unable to come back to work at this time. While we know that travel is set to rebound, we don't know exactly what our businesses will look like once that happens. What we know for sure is that our post-pandemic business will look a lot different than it did pre-pandemic. And we need the flexibility to hire and retain talent that best matches these new business needs. MCHA is staunchly opposed to an ordinance for the simple reason that it does not help bring employees back to work quickly and efficiently. If it helped bring the employees back to work, we'd most certainly support it, but it does not. In addition, we offer the following for your consideration. At the state level, the governor vetoed similar legislation in September of 2020. His reasons for veto should inform your decision-making today. This ordinance unfairly targets the hospitality industry and creates undue harm. It fosters divisiveness rather than collaboration. And additionally, we are paying close attention to the lawsuit in San Diego and believe the proposed ordinance in Monterey County raises similar legal questions. As a reminder, MCHA is the voice of the hospitality industry and the voice of our employees. We strongly oppose the development of the ordinance because it is a disservice to our businesses and a disservice to our employees. And I can absolutely assure everyone here today that our employers in no way have the intention to play games with our workforce. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you very much, Rick, for your words. And now we are going to proceed on to the next part of our agenda. And with that, I am going to reflect exactly what I talked about earlier. We've got public comment now, and we're going to open this up. We're going to ask everyone to limit their comments to 2 minutes. If you would like to speak, please raise your hand to request to be unmuted to make comment or ask a question.
Super.
Yes. Supervisor Phillips, did you want to make some comments before we go into public comment?
Well, not a comment, but I had a question because last night I think we were apprised that there was new legislation, and one of the speakers alluded to it, new legislation, similar legislation moving through the Assembly and the Senate. I wonder if staff knows the status of those and whether they would obviate what we're doing here or complement it, or what's their chances of getting it through.
So I would be happy to do that, but I see that Nick Chulos is on the line. So Nick, would you be willing to comment on SB 93 and its current status?
Sure. Good morning, supervisors. The latest information we had is that SB 93 passed off the floor of the Senate yesterday. We've been trying to get an assessment from our lobbyist in Sacramento, what the chances are of that legislation proceeding, and we have not gotten that assessment back yet. So I don't have any further information today other than what we heard about yesterday. And I understand that Assemblymember Stone, who is a co-author of the companion bill in the Assembly, that they're attempting to move this bill very quickly as a budget trailer bill. That's the latest information I have on it, supervisors.
And the content of that is similar to what we're talking about here.
It's my take on it, supervisors, is it's not quite as detailed in some ways, and there is a provision in the Senate version that allows local government to adopt more restrictive measures if local government chooses to do that.
Thank you.
Sure, you're welcome.
Any other comments or questions, Supervisor Phillips? At this
I'm
point?
good.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thanks. Once again, I skipped right over him. Power is going to my head. Okay, so where we stand now, we're going to open this up for public comment. We're going to be limited to 2 minutes. If you'd like to speak, please raise your hand to request to be unmuted to make a comment or ask a question. If you join the meeting using your computer, the raise your hand button can be found under the participant icon. If you join using a telephone, press *9 on your telephone keypad to raise your hand. The Q&A feature is available for you to submit questions. However, we won't be responding to them, but we will ask those questions at the full board discussion a week from today, April 20th. And then again, I indicated written comments should go to the full board for the meeting on April 20th, can be submitted to the clerk of the board. Now, Sarah is going to, my chief of staff, Sarah Hargrave, is going to help me identify speakers. As we move forward into that, I'm getting myself all set up here. Okay.
Supervisor Adams, we have a number of hands raised.
Thank you. And perhaps you could help me identify the first person for us to call on.
Okay, if you could call on Peter Montier, I'm going to allow you to speak as the first person who had their hand raised.
Thank you. Peter Montier, 2 minutes.
Good morning and thank you. Peter Montier, Pacific Grove Chamber of Commerce. I'd just like to state the hospitality industry here, they value seasoned, experienced employees. Most employers in that industry are not trying to ditch those people. They'd be shooting themselves in the foot. This is true because prior to the pandemic, finding qualified dishwashers or housekeepers was really difficult for employers for long-standing structural and economic reasons. And all of those reasons still exist in a labor market that's even tighter because so many former employees in positions like that have left the area. Furthermore, we believe the best judge of any employee's fitness for a position is always the employer, even if they are considering a former employee. And that's because seniority at a given business isn't necessarily the best indicator of a quality employee. So requiring them to prioritize seniority for the same or similar positions, while well-intentioned, it doesn't permit employers the flexibility they need to make the best decisions possible for their business. Like Rick stated, large employers like some of those mentioned in the agenda packet are desperate for workers because many of their employees are gone. So there's overwhelming demand among employers for anyone who can do the work they need. That's why we feel this ordinance is broadly unnecessary. Most employers in this space would be acting in good faith because of those conditions that I already mentioned. And should you decide to move forward, we certainly think that a sunset clause on an ordinance like this would be essential. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. And I regret that I did not see until just now the list of hospitality workers who would like to speak. And I'm going to call on them next, and I'm going to call on them in order. And then, Sarah, are there a lot of other people with their hands raised beyond the next 5? Do you know?
We have,
well, let's just keep...
we have 14 hands raised.
Oh, okay, great. Well, I will now go to Joaquin Benitez. And following Joaquin Benitez, I will go to Tim Lukes. And you have 2 minutes, Mr. Benitez. Please begin.
My
And-
name is Joaquin Benitez. I am in Monterey County working in the industry. I've been working for the last 40 years. I'm here to ask you guys, to supervisors, to help us to approve this retainer recall for we can have our job back. Hello?
Hello, yes, I hear you fine.
So we can have our job back. It's been very difficult since the first day we've been laid off. No one called me from my work until today. It's more than a year already. We've been working hard for this place for about 13 years. And this really brings me a lot of stress, sick, like depression. It's very sad when the bills come and I don't have enough income to pay my bill. I have a lot of health issues. I have a sleep apnea. I have high cholesterol, high blood pressure, asthma. I really need my job because it's what I depend to pay my bills and get a medical treatment with my insurance. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to us to hear, they can hear our voice. And please help us to approve this recall retention. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Joaquin.
You're welcome.
Next, I will call on Tim Lukes, and after Tim, Henry Cueta. Tim, you can please start now.
Thank you, Supervisor Mary Adams. Thanks for the time. My name is Tim Lukes. I've been working in hospitality for 25 years now. I've been a server at Pacific Edge Restaurant for the last 21 years. Unfortunately, at the Highlands Inn, our restaurant food and beverage department has not opened up at all. Not for 2/3 of the hotel that's timeshare, not for any of that room service, not for to-go orders, not for outside eating, nothing. We're now entering into the orange tier now, and we should be open up at 50% indoors with all of our great outdoor seating as well. Guess what? We have nothing. We do now see that there are jobs posted for all positions in the restaurant, and they're posting all positions without notifying all their previous employees with tons of experience, and that should be adequate staff to cover almost all positions. So it's very concerning that they do have all these positions open online. When we do contact our human resource department about this, they basically say, well, we're waiting for the powers to be to let things happen. Well, all other restaurants and places have been doing food and beverage, and we are not. So we're very concerned. I need this job because it basically to have my health benefits. It's not just for myself, but it's also for my 4 kids that I do support and that live with me. Starting over at my age is not really possible in this industry to be able to start at the bottom, because most restaurants, they don't even offer health benefits. You're lucky if you get health insurance for the employee that works for them, but then you have to pay for all the health insurance for the kids. That is not affordable for most people. I would not be able to do that. This is very difficult to be able to live in this beautiful Monterey County. Now with COVID-19, we're barely able to keep our heads above water. We're please asking for the supervisors to help pass this ordinance. It's the right thing to do. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tim. Well timed. I'm calling next on Henry Cueta, and then I'm going to call on Kirk Gaffel. So Henry Cueta, could you speak now?
I do not see her in the her name listed in the hands raised, Supervisor Adams. There are 2 phone numbers that don't have names associated with them, and I'm not sure if one of those phone numbers is the next speaker, Henriqueta, but I do not see her specific name. So I recommend.
So actually, Sarah, why don't I just, I'll go to the next speaker, Kirk Gaffel, but I'd like in the meantime, Hector, if you could see whether or not the person that you've identified is available to speak, and I will take that person after Kirk Gaffel. Okay?
Sure.
Thank you. Okay, Kirk Gaffel, you've got 2 minutes now.
Thank you, Supervisor Adams and Supervisor Phillips and staff. I am the general manager of Nepenthe Restaurant in Big Sur. My name is Kirk Gaffel. Our family-owned business has been operating for 72 years, and our success and our ability to operate is entirely based on the success and the contributions of our employees. And we have never faced a challenge such as the one we've had with COVID in the last year. Highway closures, bridge failures really are nothing in hindsight compared to the requirements to provide a safe working environment, our commitment to doing so, both for our employees as well as for our guests. And we've had to pivot, change, adapt, and entirely restructure our business in many ways. And that's a continuing effort. COVID-19 is not over. The economic impacts are far from over. And we don't know when, regardless of any stated emergency declaration being suspended by the governor or the county or even at the federal level, there's an economic cost that will continue that we have to address. And the administrative and liability issues that we have to face right now to ensure our staff get appropriate COVID-19 related benefits, sick pay, health insurance, et cetera, are quite formidable under the best of circumstances. And the notion that we need an ordinance to impose additional administrative liabilities and burdens on any employer at this time is misguided at best and really fails to respect the extraordinary efforts our industry, which has really been discriminated against in terms of many of the restrictions, has to contemplate facing going forward. So I urge you in the strongest terms to vote against any contemplated ordinance of this nature. Thank you.
Thank you, Kirk. Next now I will go to Jorge Carreño, unless there has been something from Hector about Enriqueta.
Yes, so she is on the phone, but she doesn't know how to unmute herself, or how can she speak. So if someone can give her directions, that would be great.
Yes, if she could please press *9, that will allow her to be unmuted, and she would be able to speak then.
Supervisor Adams, I have just allowed a speaker with a phone number ending in 040. And if you could unmute yourself. I think you do that by pressing *6.
*6.
Hola.
Hi.
Hi. Hola, buenos días.
Buenos días.
Hola, mi nombre es Enriqueta. Mi nombre es Enriqueta Herrera. Trabajo en la industria hospitalaria y tengo 30 años, y en el último hotel que trabajé llevo 6 años. Y el 13 de marzo me pararon de trabajar. Con la compañía me gusta trabajar y los beneficios que me dan a través de mi trabajo, uno de ellos es la aseguranza, lo cual está mi esposo necesitando por su enfermedad que tiene, que es diabetes, y porque ocupa sus medicamentos. Y me informaron que ya en mi trabajo ya llamaron a todas las del trabajo y a mí no me han llamado a trabajar. Y si me podrían ayudar con esta ordenanza, por favor, para que pueda pasar.
Thank you.
Hola.
Hector, I'm going to ask you, I'm so embarrassed that I need to ask your help to translate Enriqueta's comments.
Okay, yeah, so Enriqueta said her name is Enriqueta Herrera. She has worked in this industry as a housekeeper for 30 years. She is been on her last job for 6 years. One of the things that she heard from her coworkers is that many workers that she has have been recalled, and they've been on the job with less years than she is. She was stopped working in March 13, 2020. One of the main reasons when she wants to go back to her old job, it is because the health insurance that is offered at this place, she needs to go back because her husband is diabetic, and he needs to take medications all the time. So the health insurance for her, it is very important. And one of the things that she also mentioned it is that going back to work will allow her to get that insurance. So she's asking you to please help her out with this ordinance so people like her can get her job back.
Thank you so much for your help with the translation. And Enriqueta, thank you so much for being with us today. Now I would like to call on Jorge Carreno, followed by Sean Damery. Jorge, could you speak now?
Good morning, Supervisor Phillips, Supervisor Adams. Thank you for giving me the time. I just want to start off by saying I am a hospitality worker. I work at Quail Lodge. I've been working there for 12 years. So from my own experiences, our hospitality employers are running companies with minimal staffing, but do desire high standards. Companies are bringing in steady revenue. Hospitality companies are also prospering and profiting while employees have lost their homes, struggled to make ends meet, and put food on the table. Hospitality employers state that they are recalling workers back. But last Tuesday on the 6th, during the public comments, employers have asked us to apply. What does this say? This is shameful. They need to recall their past workers first. That is the correct thing to do. Now, government officials in Sacramento could have done better to support us, but due to pressure in the start of the pandemic, could not. We are in the orange tier now, and we need more support from our employers and the Board of Supervisors. We need to stop masking issues due to the pandemic and come forth with resolution altogether. If this does not pass, equity will not be restored between employers and employees on the peninsula. This should not be about running a business. This is about being human and taking the steps to restore equity, respecting dedications, appreciations for our tenureship. It is always the employer's discretion to do the right thing. Board of Supervisors, this time it is now your discretion to be our voice and our arbiter during these hard and difficult times. We need your support. Generating high levels of revenue comes with high levels of responsibilities. A recall and retain ordinance is the responsible thing to do for Monterey County. This is not a disservice or discrimination. This is the best thing we can do for our hospitality workers. Employers say this ordinance will cause undue hardship and burden. I have faced undue hardship and burden by being on furlough, and so has my wife being laid off. We have struggled to pay bills and support our family. We need our insurance. We have faced anxiety and uncertainty.
Thank you. I'll have
you.
to ask you to wrap your hands up, your comments up now.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments. Now we have Sean Damery, and after Sean, we have David Hoyk.
Hi, good morning. This is Sean Damery from Bernardus Lodge. Good morning, Supervisor Adams, Phillips, county staff, and the public. I want to make a few points on the business side on something that it might look good on paper, but is definitely an added task that's going to delay the process we're already trying to accomplish. First, we do need to take into consideration that some associates are not wanting to return for various reasons. And we see that from the basic fact that a lot of us still need a lot of associates to handle operations. Bernardus ramped back up to 200 associates. We still need about 30 or 40 more just to handle the summer. We've offered the job to all of our past associates. We still are having a hard time filtering through applications in order to find the associates who can fit our new business model. The second being that the idea to force a business to hire back a specific associate when so much has changed in business and an associate and or family dynamic alike. As businesses evolve, so do associates, and they are not necessarily interchangeable in the workplace. Therefore, it's not as simple as just bringing back the most tenured person. Put yourself in the shoes of a better qualified and loyal associate for the current business model who gets passed over simply based on tenure. It's not fair to them either. This mindset puts restrictions on already struggling businesses. We should have more faith and trust in our businesses to make the right decision. Our county focus needs to be on getting everyone open again, getting busy enough so we can bring every associate back, not micromanaging how we hire. This strategy is going to be the best interest of all associates, all businesses, our county finances, our reputation, and our future growth. talking about unemployment is almost irrelevant because unemployment is going to be the same. It's not like we're commuting people in from other counties. We're hiring locally. So unemployment's only going to get better as we open. That should be the focus. The third being that the opposition is primarily union, and I am affiliated with Union Properties, and so many of those have tried to reach out to their associates and they're not available. They're either at home collecting monies from the state or they're not willing to come back at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean. Thanks very much for your comments. And now we'll have David Hoyk, followed by Tanya. If you're ready, David, so are we.
You should be able to unmute yourself by pressing *6. This is a phone call.
Oh, thank you.
Now I'm unmuted. Is that good?
Yes.
All right. Good morning, Supervisor Adams and Supervisor Phillips. My name is David Hoyk. I'm the Chief Administrative Officer here at Pebble Beach Company. Pebble Beach Company is the largest hospitality employer in the county, and we've had to make many heartbreaking decisions over the last year. Many of our employees are union represented, and here in Pebble Beach, we have worked collaboratively with Hector and the union for decades. It's great to hear from those of you here today on behalf of the unions. We thank you for all your hard work and your tireless dedication. We know your heart is in the right place. We can all agree that a key element in a successful recovery is bringing our employees back to work as soon and as efficiently as possible. The concept of a recall ordinance may appear well-intentioned, and we truly appreciate the intent. In practice, however, it would be a disservice to our employees and would create long-term consequences to our regional destination as a whole, and here's why. First, it would dictate hiring decisions and create a bureaucratic, time-consuming rehiring process. Would it be a surprise if I told you that today we're holding a job fair in the hopes that we can fill more than 150 open positions? We welcome any employees to attend today starting at 2 p.m. at the Lodge. Second, it would create a competitive disadvantage for our region. We compete with other regions of the state to recruit and retain our talented workforce. Third, this is a moot point. Senate Bill 93 is moving rapidly and would enact a statewide right to recall. So there's no reason for the county to be considering this type of ordinance. As we get through this pandemic, it's my hope that we will emerge stronger together. To that end, we should all be focusing our energy on collaborative efforts that we are without question a benefit to all employees. Supervisors, we urge you to recommend the board not adopt an ordinance. It's the wrong approach, and though well-intentioned, would be an impediment to fair rehiring and our collective recovery. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Now we'll have Tanya, and then after Tanya, we'll have Mark Watson. Tanya, can you mute yourself? Unmute yourself, rather.
Good morning, Supervisor.
Good morning.
I need a translator, please.
Hector, again, I'm going to ask if you would please help us.
Sure.
Thank you.
Buenos días, mi nombre es Tania, soy trabajadora de un hotel en Monterrey por 5 años. El motivo de participar en esta reunión es para pedirles que aprueben la ordenanza para que todos los trabajadores de la industria hospitalaria puedan regresar a sus trabajos y con todos sus beneficios, ya que hace algunos días me llaman de mi trabajo para regresar. Yo acepté porque me gusta mi trabajo, porque tengo experiencia y porque me gustan los beneficios. Y me encuentro con la novedad de que me van a contratar como una nueva empleada. Perdí mi señoría, mis beneficios y mi salario. Para empezar, mi salario sería el mínimo. Trabajé unos días en el hotel. El hotel está ocupado y yo entregué un papel de mi doctor, el cual decía que no podía trabajar más de 8 horas ni más de 6 días. Debido a la situación que estoy embarazada, mi manejadora me dijo que entonces para qué regresé. Yo ahora necesito la aseguranza. No me parece justo que las compañeras que estuvieron trabajando algunos días durante la pandemia su salario sea el mismo y que yo tenga que volver a empezar como nueva empleada. Otra cosa es que las housekeeping que están trabajando ahora, están trabajando más de 8 horas y más de 5 días, como ya lo mencioné, cuando hay otras compañeras que ya están listas para regresar al trabajar y a las cuales no les han llamado.
Thank you, Tanya. And Hector, I really apologize to you. I must tell you, I neglected to engage the translator in enough time for this morning's presentation. And I thank you so much for your help here.
I'm happy to help.
Thank you.
So what Tanya says, good morning, supervisors. My name is Tanya. I am a worker in the hotel industry in Monterey. I'm asking you to approve this ordinance that is going to help us to get back to work, not just me, but the rest of the workers that are still out of work. Not long ago, I was called back to work, and I was asked to come back. And when I did so, I found out that I was rehired as a new worker. To my surprise, I had less seniority and more senior people that are supposed to be recalled. They were not recalled. And as a new hired person, I had less seniority than other people, and I am rehired with the minimum wage. The reason I went to the manager to tell him that I'm pregnant. And because of that, she told me, what are you doing here? You should stop working. And they put me out of work because I was pregnant. And the reason I went to them is because the doctor recommended not to work more than 8 hours. And they wanted me to work over 8 hours every day. Right now, many of my coworkers, right, are working more than 8 hours and overtime. And this is unfair because there are many housekeepers that work in the same hotel still waiting to be recalled, and they haven't done that for them. So I'm asking you to please pass this ordinance.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that interpretation, Hector. And let's see, moving right ahead. Now we will have Mark Watson, and following Mark Watson, we will have Guadalupe Correa.
Good morning, supervisors. Thank you for the opportunity to make a comment. I'll be brief. My name is Mark Watson. I'm the general manager for Inns by the Sea, and we operate 5 small hotel properties. I would like to agree and underscore the comments made thus far, which point out that hospitality is being unfairly singled out by this ordinance. The hospitality industry has been the most devastated of any industry by the pandemic this year. And so it seems particularly unfair to be singled out to jump through a few more hoops to try to get reopened. Moreover, it seems very unnecessary to me and the other hotel operators that I speak to here in town, as I have been unable to staff my 5 properties fully for the past 3 months. I would ask the Board of Supervisors not to pass this ordinance and further challenge our hotel operators to recover from this pandemic. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments, Mark. And now we'll have Guadalupe Correa, and after Guadalupe, Marietta Bain. Guadalupe Correa, if you can unmute yourself.
¿Del intérprete?
Yes.
Muy bien, gracias. Mi nombre es Guadalupe Coria. He trabajado en Silomar por 25 años. Le quiero pedir que aprueben la ordenanza porque necesito mi trabajo. Yo soy el sustento de mi familia. Necesito mi aseguranza médica. Mi esposo está enfermo. Toma 10 medicinas diferentes. Es de vida o muerte. No, y me causa depresión, constante nerviosismo, la inseguridad. He llamado a mi trabajo y no he recibido respuesta. Ayúdenme a seguir siendo una mujer productiva. No quiero llegar a ser una carga pública. Les pido, por humanidad, pasar la ordenanza. Gracias.
Thank you. Hector, do you want to sum up her comments?
Yes. Hi, my name is Guadalupe Coria. I've been working for 25 years at the Asilomar Conference Grounds, and I'm asking you to please approve this ordinance. I am the only breadwinner in my house. My husband is sick. He takes 10 different medications. Through my job, I have health insurance. So I need to go back to get my job so I can go back to my health insurance. I have been calling my employer to find out what is going on and when I will be back. I need my job. I want to be a productive member of society. I don't want to become a public charge to anybody. I would like you to please do this for human reasons, if no other reason, and please pass this ordinance.
Thank you very much, Hector. And now we will go to Marietta Bain. And after Marietta, we have Cecilia Valdez. Marietta, if you could unmute yourself. I think you're still muted. There we are.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Marietta Bain. I'm an owner-operator of a restaurant in Pacific Grove, Fandango, for over 35 years. And it's hard for me to believe that the county is coming after hospitality with this ordinance when our industry has suffered such a drastic loss for over a year. Just because guests are flooding back into our county doesn't mean things are getting back to normal. How do our businesses make up for the loss of revenue and the monthly overhead expenses that we've incurred and have been burdened to pay for the last 13 months? Some of our businesses have changed forever. Job descriptions may have drastically or slightly changed. Jobs are being revised or consolidated with other duties from maybe 2 or 3 positions into one. We cannot be forced into hiring people that don't exactly fit what is needed at this time to keep our businesses alive. By allowing us to stay nimble, we will be in a better position to operate our businesses efficiently and productively so we can hire more people in the future as we try to grow our business. Group business may never be the same during my personal restaurant lifetime. Group business is the key to conversation because until groups return, our businesses cannot function and flourish as they have in the past. Until we can welcome groups and banquets, we will continue to operate with only the essential staff we have retained throughout these difficult 13 months. The county cannot tie our hands to force us to run our businesses as they deem fit. This will not serve the best interest of our employees or employers. Please know we urge the board to not pursue a hospitality recall ordinance.
Thank you, Marietta. Well timed. And next we have, I'm not sure if it's Celica, or if it would be Cecilia. Celica.
Yes. Hi. Good morning,
Hi,
Supervisor.
good morning.
And thank you for giving me the time to speak. My name is Celica Valdez. I am the president of Unite Here Local 483. I am asking this committee to support the recall and retention ordinance. For the past year, we all lost many things, workers and employers. I have been working really close with the hospitality workers, and I saw and witnessed their struggles and fears as healthcare, their loss of income, how they're gonna pay their bills, how to put food on the table, childcare, many fears that they have. And I have been working with them to find most of the resources available to them in the community. And we know that business in the industry is coming back slowly, we know, but it's coming back. And we know that there is a lack of workers. And we are just asking the employers to do the right thing and call them back in seniority order and with the benefits that they already have. They already have because they know how to do the job. They have the experience and they earn those benefits. I have been hearing of workers who are back to work and they are being considered as new employees. They have been giving them training that the training is not a training at all. They are just adding workload to the trainer, and they are both of them doing the job because they know how to do the job. They will not be doing that with somebody that doesn't have experience. They just do that to pay less. To an experienced worker, they're paying less. And you guys have the power for things like this don't happen in the industry, and hotels should not be doing that. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your comments, Salita. Next, I will go to Frank Geisler. And then after Frank, I want to say that there are 9 additional hands that are raised. And I think it would be a good idea if we stop comments at 10:25, so we could have some wrap-up comments or thoughts from Supervisor Phillips and myself. And so we'll take as many as we can up to 10:25. Thank you. And now Frank Geisler. If you can unmute yourself, Frank. There we go.
Sorry.
Great.
Good morning, Supervisor Adams. Good morning, Supervisor Phillips and staff. My name is Frank Geisler. I'm President and CEO of the Monterey Peninsula Chamber of Commerce. And the Chamber is in strong opposition to this proposed ordinance, an emergency ordinance that mandates certain businesses rehire employees who are laid off because of the pandemic. Since 1908, the Chamber has had a mission to support our members' success and to promote the regional economy that results in a betterment for every member of our communities. It's not simply, the large hotels, but all of the hundreds of large and small local businesses throughout the regions. So we question as well the need for the county to intervene in the business operation of individual entities in their employment practices. We've had a very long year of adverse conditions threatening the survival of our small businesses, even large businesses. And why impose at this time more restrictions when the conditions are getting better for everybody? As a matter of fact, we received some notices that businesses will not reopen at all. So that goes right there to as an adverse and unintended consequences of such a proposal. As it was mentioned before, the ordinance would supersede any kind of business plan change that would be dictated by the market. And we know the conditions are different now that they are pre-COVID. So this is forcing the hands of many businesses and resulting in long-term unintended consequences. We urge the Board of Supervisors to dismiss consideration of this item. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Frank. Now we'll hear Kevin Ellis, and after Kevin, we'll hear Terry Owens. Kevin? If you can unmute yourself, there we go.
Hi, good morning, County Supervisors. Good morning, County staff. My name is Kevin Ellis. I'm the General Manager here at the Hyatt Regency Monterey Hotel and Spa. As stated previously, my business is much like everyone else in the area and the world has been decimated by the pandemic. We're starting to see an uptick in leisure travel. It's allowed us to already be in motion with recalling our previous team members in those roles in the hotel that we've seen a faster rate of recovery. We're currently following a process of recalling our workforce by date of hire, but also learning very quickly that we are not the same industry we were before the pandemic. We continue to evolve our service in a manner in which we can get our people back to work as quick as possible, often in roles which did not exist previous to the pandemic. This flexibility is key in ensuring a faster rate of recovery and thus our ability to be able to bring back our team. This proposed ordinance shows little regard for the relationship that we have with our most valuable asset, and that of course is our people. The recovery process of my property has just begun. The efforts to build back my business will continue to be long beyond 2021. I view this proposed ordinance as counterproductive to the energy and collaboration that my business and my team are looking for with local government as we recover. And I urge the Hospitality Ad Hoc Committee not to pursue this recall ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. And now Terry Owens.
Adams and Supervisor Phillips, thank you very much for
listening to me at this time. I appreciate all the comments everybody's given. I wanted to share in particular some really good news in my hotel. I am this general manager at Embassy Suites in Monterey Bay Seaside. And I had the distinct pleasure this week, for the first time in over a year, of hiring new associates. But I didn't just hire new associates. I hired 7 of my prior employees. It was just very much a pleasure to talk to them and welcome them back to the hotel for 10 years, 20 years, 25 years. Because this is what we do. They are the best trained. They know the job. We want them to come back and do the job that we've trained them to do over 25 years in some cases. The fact of the matter is there's a severe labor shortage in this area. And even if I wanted to hire people that were not already employees of the hotel, I wouldn't be able to find them. I have positions that are open for positions that I don't have any prior employees to fall back on, and nobody's applying. So I don't really see a need for this kind of ordinance or this kind of mandate. I also think that it causes a huge burden on the hotel bureaucratically and administratively, and it can cause delays in hiring. I do know of hotels in other areas of the country that actually had to turn away business because they have a lack of staffing. I don't want that to happen to our hotel or any hotel in Monterey. So anyway, I do urge you to not approve this ordinance, and let's get back to work. Thank you.
Thank you, Terry. So now we will be calling Jim Giamona and then Paige Bindell, and Paige will be our last speaker. If you have questions that you wish to submit, though, if you're not called on, you could send them to the clerk of the board as the email that I said earlier, so that we can address them at the Board of Supervisors meeting next week. So now, Jim Giamona, if you could start and unmute yourself, we're ready to roll.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I'm Jim Giamona. I'm a 40+ year employee at Hyatt Regency. Work for Kevin Ellis. I was going to talk about, how this has affected me, because there has been an effect in my life with this COVID-19. But it's interesting to me hearing all the employers and employer representatives talking against this measure. And it all seems to revolve around them being able to change their work practices to less employees doing more work, and some employees doing more than one job, 2, 3 jobs. When we started this union, I started in the strike in '82 was when we started building it. And when I started, we had no sick days, we had no holidays, we made a very low wage, and we had no say in the negotiations. Well, after the strike in '82, all that changed, and we were able to build the union up to where we had paid holidays, sick days, and all the other things that go along with having a strong union. And we accomplished all that with Lenny O'Neill taking over in 1982. And I see some of the employers as maybe trying to use this as a way to go back to what it was pre having a built union.
Mm-hmm.
And the backlash from them, being so far against this ordinance, which it's only them bringing back the same employees that they had before. Doesn't make much sense to me. Why would they not want to bring back people that already worked for them? And why is that such a big issue? I don't see the hardship for them in it. And I really hope that you'll take into consideration the fact that this is for people, and it's not always about the money and for the ownership. Working people have their rights too.
Thank you so much for your comments, Jim. Thank you. And now we'll go to our final speaker, who will be Paige Bindell.
Hello, this is David Bindell.
Oh, hello. If you can unmute yourself. There we go.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
Yes.
This is David Bindell, Paige's husband. I'm sorry, my phone comes up as Paige, but this is David. Thank you for your time today. I'm a 20-year veteran at the Highlands Inn. I just want to touch base really quick on something. I want everyone to think about the average restaurant worker. They go in every day at 5 o'clock. You only work till about 10 o'clock. It's about 5 hours. We have to generate about 160 to 180 hours a month to earn our insurances there. Seniority, the one thing seniority gives you when you work 15, 20 years someplace is the right to work your schedule, the ability to get your hours, have your days, earn the insurance. And this is insurance for your wife, your kids, your entire family. By going to, hiring a lot of people sounds great, but when you hire a lot of people and they're only working 4 or 5 days and 3 and 4 days, they'll never get their insurance benefits. They'll never reach those hours. There's no way to do it. Having the seniority equals hours equals insurance. COBRA, when you lose your insurance, is about $2,000 a month for your family. It's unaffordable for anybody in our work parameters. Also, I think it's important to address, like the previous speaker said, this law does not tell people how many people to bring back. They're running their own departments. They're running their restaurants. If they want 3 people, if they want 4 people, all it's saying is you bring back the ones that have the seniority that did the job. I do not see what the opposition is. And I think it speaks a lot that general managers and hotel owners are all against this. I would love to see one that was for it. That would say a lot to me. That would really be someone with heart. Also, the idea that we're all, interchangeable, consolidatable, disposable, like rolling the dice. These general managers and most of the general managers I've seen over my years work about 4 or 5 years at a property. Then they move out of the area. They usually don't live for that long. Think about it. Some have stayed a long time, but usually by every 4 or 5 years, there's a new manager and that one leaves the area. The workers will stay here 15, 20, 30 years and contribute to the economy year in, year out. Their families, their children's schools, they are really the backbone of this area. So I do please ask you to support the ordinance, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, David. Thanks very much. Okay, we are just at about the end. So I just want to reiterate that anyone who did not have the opportunity to comment today will have another opportunity next week at the Monterey County Board of Supervisors meeting. With that, I will go to my colleague, Supervisor Phillips, to see if he has any closing comments or questions.
Yeah, no, I don't have any questions, but I have a few comments after listening to this. As you know, I wasn't enthusiastic about this referral when it was first made by Supervisor Leo. But I took, and no one from the industry, really from the workers side of it, ever reached out to me to voice that they had a concern about this. But I did get a chance. A good friend, Cesar Lara, put some people in touch with me yesterday. I listened to talk to them. And after hearing the speakers today, I have to say my views are unchanged. And I cannot, in good conscience, support a local ordinance like this. I think there are some things that government, whether it's city, county, or state, has no business meddling in. And here is a typical example. Even in California, we shouldn't be meddling in this. Here we are trying to tell local businesses that were by far the hardest hit in the county, and probably the hardest hit in the state, with other parts of the state opening up sooner than us. And we're telling them now how to run their business as they struggle to regain and reopen their businesses. And as some of them has mentioned, things are different. There may be some things where they need more people at the front of the house or the back of the house, whether it's a hotel or a restaurant. This creates, no matter what you say, an administrative burden on them. And there has to be some response in a positive way. I've seen no showing by anybody that this is necessary, unless we just assume that the hospitality isn't going to treat their people fairly. And I think there really isn't. And I know I disagree with, and I take their advice of county council, but I think there's an equal, from a gut reaction, there's an equal protection problem where we take these industries and we say, these industries who were the hardest hit, we're going to start controlling how you are hiring people back. But we're not going to do it for the exercise people, for the construction people, for the hair salons, none of that. And I do think it's ironic of all the industries, hospitality in Monterey County, that treat its people so well. Any of us, I think all of us have been to their employee appreciation hospitality they have every year, and how they recognize and honor their employees. The Papa Vince Award, Chris Shake buying food for all his employees during the COVID epidemic. And this is the one industry that we seem to be telling how to run their things as they open back up. I think it's a real disadvantage to us. If the state law passes, I think it's fairer because it doesn't put our county out of whack with other counties. And as I look at it, we mentioned 2 counties have done this. Only 2 that I know of, LA and San Francisco, which is city and county. So we're kind of way out there as far as the process. And, you know, I do feel bad for the employers, because so many of them, when you do this and you say, well, what's wrong? All we want is a little fairness. And it really puts them, and I've talked to some of them, they said, we don't want to speak out against this, really. It makes us look like we're anti-employee, and we're not. And it's just unfortunate. And I think this process hasn't helped bring employers together. I think it's been counterproductive. And if someone is going to do it, I think besides dealing with the equal protection, they got to talk about the successor employer being bound by it, the 10-day wait period, the straight seniority, no matter whether it's front of the house or back of the house. But those are concerns that someone's going to have to address if they're going to support this or try to draft something that's constitutional. But I have a bigger concern of where this leads down the road. What happens in 6 months if we have an economic downturn and construction is shut down for 6 months? All construction is shut down. We've seen in the past. Then what is that the next thing we do? We step in as a state or a county and say, we're going to tell you how you're going to rehire those people. So I think we're getting into some business we have no business getting into, and I continue not to support it. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Supervisor Phillips. You make a lot of sense to me. Yet my heart is really pulled by so many of the comments that we've heard today from the workers. It seems to me, from my own limited experience, though, that there are many really excellent employers who are going to be hurt by this. Yet there are some significant bad actors who are treating their employees unfairly. What I'd like to do today, and what I am going to do today, is I want to take the time between now and next week to talk to some of my colleagues and friends who are in the hospitality business, both the employers and the employees, and just try to get a better handle on exactly what the circumstances are between those who are playing by the rules and who are treating their employees as I know many of them are being treated, and what the circumstances are with the ones who are not treating their employees with the respect and dignity that they have earned and that they deserve. So I'm not going to make further comment today. This will come before the board next Tuesday, but I will be spending the next week gathering additional information, which I think will help form my final opinion. So with that, I will thank everyone very much for participating with us today. I thank all of the staff from the county that put together the great PowerPoints, Chris Donnelly and Les Gerard specifically, my own team, Sarah Hardgrave and Colleen Courtney, who were very helpful in making this work. And then Hector, I thank you again for subbing in as translator. And I apologize for not having someone on board to do that for us today.
Happy to do so.
Thank you. And thanks all of you who participated, and I appreciate hearing your stories. So I will see many of you next Tuesday, April 20th at the Monterey County Board of Supervisors. Thank you so much.
Thank you
very much.
Thank you.